I even got to the NBA, I've always won. And it doesn't matter which level you win on. If you're in a winning environment, that shit carries on throughout the rest of your life. My first year ever playing organized sports, I won a Little League football championship that year, and then backed it up with a basketball championship. Undefeated season. My second year, we did the same thing, you know, and I was league MVP in basketball and football. Through middle school championships, through high school, I won 3 state championships. You know, like I was just always born winner, and I knew how to win because of the culture that I was around. I knew how it was supposed to be done. And at that moment, you know, my 7 years in Cleveland, I had some good years, obviously, some great years. One, was able to take the team to the NBA Finals. I was 22 years old. I had a moment in Detroit where I went insane, 25 straight, 29 out of 30, you know, and took a team that you look back at our roster, you're like, what the hell? How is that even possible?
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
So I've been following closely on social media the LeBron James, Stephen A. Smith saga. Came across the comments he made where he said Giannis Antetokounmpo, he could put up 250 points in a game. Really, that's what I thought was the gist of the LeBron James interview on the Pat McAfee show. I'm scrolling through YouTube Shorts and I come across this comment where he says that the 2007 Cavs team wouldn't have made it to the NBA Finals unless he made them believe they were better than what they actually were. Now, I've always been of the mindset that the Eastern Conference really wasn't all that tough at that time. I think 2007, Shaq and D-Wade was injured, banged up pretty well. Detroit, they didn't have Ben Wallace. So, you know, everybody else was just right for the picking, and LeBron was just stepping to his own. And, you know, I kind of always disagreed with the fact that this is the worst team to be dragged to the NBA Finals. In my personal opinion, I thought the team was decent. I mean, I was a fan of Larry Hughes back then. Had Boobie Gibson, you know, Anderson Varejao, Sasa Pavlovic. Z was doing his thing. Drew Gooden was a big contributor in the playoffs, but that's just one man's opinion. I found a video on YouTube, and let me get the page correct before I just say anything. A1 Hoops. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you for making this video. It's about 5 years old, so just bear with me, all right? It's called The Truth Behind LeBron's 2007 Finals Run. I named a handful of the contributors, but he's going to break down series by series. And then after which, I'm going to take a look at the NBA Finals because everybody seems to think that LeBron and the Cavs were just run off the floor every game and they had no chance to be in that series. I completely 100% disagree, and you're going to see why. But let's get to the video.
It is the year 2007. LeBron James, as a 22-year-old, led his Cleveland Cavaliers to the NBA Finals. But how impressive was it really? What was the competition like? In this video, we're going to get into that. What's going on? This is your boy, NBA1 Hoops. Back at it with another video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and like for more content. Now let's go ahead and get into it. Now, LeBron James, as a 22-year-old, as I mentioned earlier, dragged his Cleveland Cavaliers to the NBA Finals. Now, before we start getting into everything, I just want to make a quick disclaimer. This is no way, shape, or form any type of hate or, you know, any slight towards LeBron James. It was an impressive feat, and especially as a 22-year-old. So I just wanted to get that out the way. This is in no way, shape, or form some type of hate directed toward LeBron. I am not a LeBron hater. However, I am objective. So I wanted to throw that out there because I can already hear the comments and people on Twitter saying, oh, you're just a LeBron hater. Well, that's not true. So the first thing I want to discuss with you guys is the competition that LeBron faced. In other words, the road he faced to get to the finals in the first place. So as you can see on your screen, we have each round and the opposing team's record, so the corresponding opponent's record within that round. So in round one, the Cleveland Cavaliers went up against the 41-41 Washington Wizards and swept them. In the second round, he faced the New Jersey Nets, who were a 41-41 team. So both of these first two teams that LeBron faced in the NBA playoffs back in 2007 weren't even above 500. Now, the next team he faced in the Eastern Conference Finals was the 53-29 Detroit Pistons. So that right there is a solid team. And then, of course, in the NBA Finals, as we all know, he faced the San Antonio Spurs and lost in 4 games.
Now, okay, let's be clear. I am not saying he should have beat the San Antonio Spurs. It's clearly, Spurs are the Spurs. Tim Duncan, Parker, young Parker, right, hadn't really came into his own. Manu Ginobili, and you got Greg Popovich. I'm not saying you should beat that team, but considering how you dismantled Detroit, albeit we'll get into the fact that, you know, certain things were missing in place for the Pistons, but you can't get one. That's always been my frustration with that series. But like he said, 41-41, 41-41, 53-29, and then you play the Spurs. Not exactly a treacherous road to the NBA Finals.
He was swept. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at each round, and we're going to look at the competition that LeBron actually faced. In other words, the opposing teams' players, and we're also going to compare that to the amount of help that LeBron had within that series. So like I said before, the first round was the Washington Wizards. The 2 best players on the Washington Wizards, who were a 41-41 team, so they weren't above 500, were Antoine Jamison at 32 points per game and 9 rebounds during that series, and Antonio Daniels at 13.3 points per game and 11.8 assists. So that's...
Now, this is the Washington Wizards. They didn't have Gilbert Arenas, albeit the Cavs beat them the previous year in the playoffs with Gilbert Arenas, but they didn't have Gilbert Arenas, and they didn't have Caron Butler. That is, I mean, Gil can go for 30 any given night. He's definitely a bucket, especially in the playoffs. Caron Butler can give you 20, so you're missing about 20 and 30, 50 points every single night versus the Cavs team that we're going to see in just a moment.
Very solid. Those are the 2 best players and 2 leading scorers on the Wizards. Now let's compare that to what LeBron had and the help he had and the contributions that he had from his teammates. So it was a very solid series for LeBron. He averaged 27.8 points per game, 8.5 rebounds per game.
Career averages for LeBron, 27-8, 8-5, 7-5. Same thing we've always seen from him, all right? Now, he's going to make a comment in just a moment that I don't agree with, where he says LeBron didn't play that well. LeBron James played great, in my opinion. Played great this series. But look at everybody else.
And 7.5 assists per game. Now let's look at some of his teammates, because the false narrative that goes on in the media is that, hey, LeBron dragged his teams to the 07 Finals with no help, but that's actually not true. Take a look at the screen here if you weren't already. Larry Hughes, 19 points per game, 6.8 rebounds per game. Ilgauskas had 19 points per game, 11 rebounds per game. And then we have finally Drew Gooden at 14.5 points per game and 10 rebounds per game. So the thing is, LeBron played well. He was the best player, obviously, on his team, but he had 3 other teammates average at least 13 points per game. And 2 of them...
Now, when you look at that, Larry Hughes played great. Z played great. Drew Gooden played great. LeBron did his thing. It's the first round of the playoffs, and you're facing a 41-41 team. This is what you expect from the others. Get themselves going, get them involved, you know, playing great against an underdog team. This is how you perform. Just take care of business. Don't play with your food. Get them out of there. And everybody was prepared and ready every single night, putting up those type of numbers. I mean, you got 2 guys putting up basically 20 points a night, and Drew Gooden average a double-double. You can't ask for much more. You can't ask for much more. They handle business. They get the sweep.
Averaged 19. So the narrative that LeBron had no help needs to stop. Not to mention the fact that these games are close. Yes, I understand it was a sweep, but the margin of victory for the Cleveland Cavaliers was only 8.7. So the narrative that, oh, LeBron destroyed all these little teams and stuff like that on the way to the NBA Finals is not true. Yes, it was a sweep, but most of these games are close. They were decided by less than 10 points. So what's my main point? My main point is the fact that LeBron struggled. He struggled against his team despite having more players average double-digit points. That is the moral. That's the moral of the story here, pretty much. You're facing a 41-41 team. You have 4 players average double-digit points, and the margin of victory was only 8 points per game. Are you serious? Let's move on to round 2. So in round 2, LeBron and company face off against the New Jersey Nets, who were 41-41. So yet again, another team that didn't even win above 500. And they were led by a 30-year-old Vince Carter, a 33-year-old Jason Kidd, and a 27-year-old Richard Jefferson. So now let's get into how they performed during that series. We have...
Now, you're going to look at the screen. You're going to see 2 Hall of Famers. Look at their numbers, okay? And you also got to consider, yes, 2 Hall of Famers on the same team. They weren't 41-41 by accident. This was not a good team. This is not the same team you saw with Kenyon Martin, Jason Kidd, Kerry Kittles, Lucius Harris, Aaron Williams. I mean, that's not the same team. RJ was on it. That's not the same squad that was going to the NBA Finals versus the Lakers and versus the Spurs. That's not the same team. Completely different makeup. Not as good.
Vince Carter at 19.7 points per game, 7.5 rebounds per game, and 6.7 assists per game. As you can see on the screen, I have it right there for you. Jason Kidd, 15.2 points per game, 11.8 assists per game. Pretty solid, but again, 33 years old. Richard Jefferson, who was, pretty much in the heart of his prime, 17.8 points per game, 6.2 rebounds per game. So on face value, this seems pretty good, and you can start to see, okay, they turned it up in the playoffs. Okay, that's pretty much what the impression that you're getting. But let's compare that to what LeBron had in his supporting cast during that series. So if you could take a look at the screen, guys, I have...
And once again, guys coming in and just doing their job is always going to be enough. All right. That's really the idea of help. All right. Come in and do your job at a high level. We're going to have success if we have that guy. If we have a guy like LeBron and everybody else around him comes in and does their job, what they're being paid to do at a high level, we're going to have success. Larry Hughes, not playing against a great team. All I need is 14 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and you to guard Jason Kidd. Z, give me 11-9. Drew Gooden, 10-9. Sasha Pavlovich, give me 10 points. Play defense, get rebounds. And you probably can't even see at the bottom of the screen, Vaverjao chipped in 5 points and 6 rebounds. Everybody, every time you're on the floor, do your job at a high level, play defense, and LeBron's going to do the rest.
I have it right here for you. I mean, numbers don't lie. That is the old age saying. LeBron James had 5 teammates. Well, he won against his team, but in fact, that isn't the case. The average margin of victory for the Cleveland Cavaliers against these Nets was only 8 points per game, which is actually closer than the previous series at 8.7.
And I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that.
The narrative that LeBron didn't have any help and that he dragged a terrible Cavs team to the finals is just simply incorrect. He had 5 teammates average double-digit points. So let's go ahead and move on to round 3, which is actually a more impressive round for him. Now, the common thing before we get into, go any further, people say LeBron beat the Detroit Pistons, who just 2 or 3 years prior destroyed the Kobe Shaq Lakers. But the problem with that is it's missing a lot of context. And the context that they're missing is the fact that Ben Wallace didn't play in the series that LeBron faced the Pistons in. And he was a key defensive anchor and a key rim protector. Now this team, this Pistons team that we're speaking of, did win 53 games and only lost 29 games throughout that season. Now, as far as this series is concerned, there's not really much you can take away from it other than the fact that they didn't have Ben Wallace, who was a key defensive player for that team. LeBron, the Cavs did go down 0-2 to this team, and LeBron did play well, and he only had 2 other players average double digits, which is actually a disadvantage for him considering the fact that the Detroit Pistons had 4 players average double digit.
Now, here's where the conversation changes, okay? You're playing in the Eastern Conference Finals on the way to the NBA Finals. The dynamic changes, all right? The way I view the game, as far as the playoffs in the NBA, your superstar needs to get you 2. Then your superstar needs to play the same way he's playing in another game in which a player goes, another player steps up and has one of those games. And then the other game, as a team, you just pour it on. Pour it on, seal up the series, lock down defense, playing great team basketball. Your superstar puts the nail in the coffin. That's typically how it goes, all right? Typically. This series, LeBron James, otherworldly. Okay, I live in Southeast Michigan. Detroit fans don't like talk about that day. They hate talking about the day LeBron did what he did to the Pistons. 25 straight points, 29 points out of 30. It is something nobody likes to talk about around here. I just say that. Now, you also have a game in that series where Boobie Gibson dropped 31. Boobie Gibson off the bench dropped 31. That little dude back here, this dude right here, you probably know him from what was it? Is it Love and Hip Hop? Something like that. You probably know him from a reality show. That was a bad dude in that season. All right, he was hitting shots, timely shots, and you know what? I'll say this. I think this is the game, the Pistons game, where LeBron's, all of the doubts coming into his career, can he live up to the hype, this and that. I honestly think all of those answers should have been answered in that game. All those questions should have died in that game. He solidified it. He was going to be one of them ones. All right. I think all those questions should have been dead. Obviously not. People still question him to this day, but that's how it goes, when you're one of those guys. What I want to get to is the NBA Finals.
Now, in the next series, and obviously this is the NBA Finals, 4th round finals, LeBron and company face off against the San Antonio Spurs, who obviously went on to win the championship, and they swept LeBron. And the narrative about this series is LeBron had absolutely no help, zero help at all. His teammates averaged 0 points per game, and LeBron was killed and blown out of every game. That is the common narrative about that series.
Now, I'm going to stop the video right here because I'm going to talk about this series myself, because let's go to game 1. All right, when you look at this series, all right, just about every game was in reach for the Cavs. 76-85. You hold that San Antonio Spurs team to 85 points, you played some really, really stout defense. You look at the team, though, Sasha Pavlovich, 6 of 12, he had 13 points. Drew Gooden, 6 of 9, 14 points. You get 16 from Gibson off of the bench. You get 10 from Verjao off of the bench. This is what I have a problem with. All right, he goes 4 for 16, 2 of 6 from 3, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 6 turnovers. When you have the ball a lot, yes, you're going to turn the ball over. But 6, a bit much. 14 points, too little. 4 for 16, not great. The Spurs are going to force him to shoot jumpers. I watched this series backwards and forwards multiple times. They wanted him to shoot jumpers. You know what's crazy? I'll put it to you like this. The way the Spurs schemed for LeBron James in 2007 is the exact same way the Dallas Mavericks schemed for Dwayne Wade. Same exact scheme. You look at the other side, you get 16 from Manu, 24 from Duncan, 24-13, 27 points from Tony Parker, and you only lose by 9. Now that makes you think, okay, if LeBron plays a little bit better, we got a chance to, make some noise. LeBron, 9 of 21, 25 points, 6 assists, 7 rebounds. 10 from Pavlovich, 13 from Gooden. You get 15 from Gibson. Gibson's playing well. And then you look at the other side, 30, 23, and 25 from the big 3 from the Spurs. That's what it took to beat you. And you only had 25 points. You lose by 11. You could be a little bit more efficient. I'd like to see, maybe something like, 12 for 21, 11 for 21. It's being picky, right? But when you're in the NBA Finals and you're that guy, and you just did what you did against the Detroit Pistons, 25 points is not going to cut it versus this team. And that's what everybody seems to forget. Let's move on to game 3. And now you look at game 3. You hold the Spurs, their big 3, to 75 points. You only squeezed out 72. You hold Duncan, 14 points. Parker doesn't go off, 17. Get 13 from Bruce Bowen. Manu Ginobili does nothing. The man is non-existent in this game. Let's see what you do. You get nothing from your bench. Okay. You get 12 and 18. Wait a minute. Hold up. You get 12 points and 18 rebounds from Zydrunas Ilgauskas. and you get 13 points and 12 rebounds from Drew Gooden, you get 13 from Sasha Pavlovich, you only have 25 and you lose by 3. Let me explain something what help looks like. I said it looks like guys coming in, doing their job at a high level. You limit the opportunities for the San Antonio Spurs. 2 guys get you 30 rebounds and LeBron gives you 8 extra ones. LeBron has 25 points. I told you, ideally, I want 11 for 21, 12 for 21, something in that range. He gets up 23 shots, only makes 9. 25 points is not enough at that stage. This is what bothers me about this narrative surrounding the 2017. No, you don't have another superstar. But in this instance, you don't need a superstar next to LeBron James to get you 1 game. You don't need that. You need LeBron to do the same thing he did in the previous series, which is put the kids to bed when it's time to tuck them in at night. 25 points is not enough, especially when you get all the contributions on the glass, 12 and 18. You get 13 and 12 from Drew Gooden. Everybody talks about how Mike had Dennis Rodman. Those are Dennis Rodman stats. 18 boards, 12 boards. You need more than 25 points from LeBron to get the job done. You don't get it done in a crucial game. A game that's going to give you hope going into game 4, especially a young team. Let's check out what happened in game 4. Now, the score is 1 point, but if I remember correctly, they were down maybe 4 or 5 going into the late parts of the game. So it wasn't exactly that close. They just made it that close at the end. They're hanging around for a while. I mean, last 2 minutes of the game, they actually had the lead. Tim Duncan, 24 points. Tim Duncan had 12 points and 15 rebounds. Tony Parker, 24. Manu goes crazy, 27 points. All of that happens, and you only lose by 1. Please tell me LeBron had 30. No, he was actually 10 of 30. 24 points, 6 rebounds, 10 assists. You get 11 and 11 from Drew Gooden. You get 8 and 13 from Z. You get 8 points and 9 points from Damon Jones and Varejao. Listen, I'm not saying that he had a guy come into the game and be able to take over games. Notice, there's no Larry Hughes there, all right? So you don't have that other guy right now. You lose by 1 point. You go 10 of 30, 24 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds. It seems that in those 2 games, you didn't hold up your end of the bargain. We've seen what LeBron James is able to do in a series, especially when it's back against the wall. Do I have to point out the 3-1 comeback? Okay, yes. Veteran, champion at that point. But again, back against the wall, down 0-2 to Detroit, you come back and win that series on the backs of a 25 straight point, 29 out of 30 type game. There was no way you can watch that game and saying, you know what, Detroit, they can win this game, because you've seen the force and will LeBron was playing with all game, and he was being guarded by Tayshaun Prince. No, they didn't have Ben Wallace back there, but still, he did that. He played with that force and tenacity to make sure they didn't go down in that series. They didn't lose that series. You can't tell me you can't give me that type of effort and performance in the NBA Finals when you clearly have a chance to do so and you lose by 1 point in one game, 3 points in another game, and you play subpar in the scoring department for your team. All right, now, no, didn't have another superstar. All right, D-Wade and Shaq, injuries, yeah, but they were still superstars on one team. In the Eastern Conference, really, that was it. We seen the list. 41-41 from the Washington Wizards, 41-41 New Jersey Nets, 53-29 Detroit, dismantled them, sent them home. Like I said, Southeast Detroit, Southeast Michigan, we don't talk about that. San Antonio Spurs, 58. I mean, you can give me a game if you're LeBron James. That's always been my opinion. But again, it's a great feat nonetheless for him to get to the NBA Finals with that team at 22 years old. But let me know in the comments how you're thinking about this. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel. That's one more for the good guys.